Hey guys, what is going on? Today, I got some big news. As you can see in my other video, I said Dustin's going to share some big news with you. And as you can see, it said book talk. Now, what could that mean? That can mean only one thing. I wrote a book. Well, I'm only 18 years old. That seems highly illogical. Whatever. But today, guys, okay, first, let's do a little bit of a history lesson. You all know, or probably have heard if you've been on this channel for a while, of the name Jameson. Jameson was going to be the main character in a movie we were going to film. Well, the only reason why we weren't able to film that movie is because I went somewhere else during winter break. But Jameson wasn't made up for the movie. It was a character I came up from a story I was writing, and that story was going to be based off, or the movie was going to be based off the story. Well, guys, the time is here. My book is done. Book, my book. That says Dustin Moore. Why everything you know about Jameson is a lie. It is a book I wrote. Badass is what it is. Hold on. There it is. My camera app closed for some reason. And I figured I want you guys to know the story of Jameson. I'm really happy with how it turned out. I'm really happy with how it turned out, and I figured I would. Man, that's kind of dark. That's what weird. I figured I would read the story to you because I want you guys to know who exactly Jameson is and why I like him so much. But story, I will tell you a little bit about the book. The book had to be 16,000 words. Well, my story ended at 14,000 words. So I had a friend give me a story that he wasn't going to be able to finish. And we've been good friends for a while, so I figured, you know, I'd give him some recognition, and we'll read his story first. It's called Into Madness. Short story by Alex Hunter. Good friend of mine. Here we go. His story is only like maybe 10 pages. So probably next video we'll get into the next episode we'll get into my story. It was getting colder in the freezer. She began hitting the door as hard as she could to get out. But with the padlock through the door's hasp, there was no hope of escape. Not even her screams made it out there. The manor's house's two owners, Mary and Todd, found the maid's body in their freezer. The manor's house's two owners, Mary and Todd, found the maid's body in their freezer with the door wide open and called the police. Officers were all over the area investigating the scene of the death, but could come up with nothing. It was their child Lucius's birthday, but they were only at the party for a few quiet minutes. Lucius's parents own their own companies. His father owns an oil company, and his mother owns her own law firm, so they didn't have much time for their son. The boy was slowly spiraling into depression. Over the lack of time spent with his parents, he began to hallucinate his own friend, and that seemed to calm the boy's madness for a little while. The police were back with the report on what happened to the housemaid. They said that she was most likely went into shock. Being in that cold freezer wasn't good for her old heart. They asked a few questions and investigated the freezer again before they walked out the front door. The officers left the manor house without even a second thought as to what really could have happened to her. Burning heat and searing flames were all around him. He tried to scream, but his lungs were at that moment cauterized shut. The hard kitchen floor the hard kitchen floor is where his charred corpse lay. The smell of burnt flesh alerted no one at first, but it was only a few moments later when Todd had realized that his old business partner had gone missing. Todd went searching through the house, going door to door to find his friend. He opened the kitchen door only to see his friend's burnt corpse lay right in front of him. The police were yet again at that beautiful manor house for an incident. The body was too damaged for the police to identify, but Todd had already told them he was in a state of shock. For what he saw was something that had never passed through his mind. The smell was sorry, excuse me. The smell was so bad that the house had to be vacant for a couple of days, so the family stayed in the hotel for the time being. When the family was out of the house, the relationship grew and everything was calming down. And I got a text message. Oh, my bad. Everything was calming down. The police stopped by the hotel to elaborate more into the incident with Todd's friend. They stated that the stove's gas line was compromised and that this is what caused the fire that engulfed him. They told the family to check with their maintenance man and see how this could have happened. He was screaming and then fell silent, his voice crushed by the grand piano that was now laying on his head. It is just another casualty for the police to deal with, the voice echoed softly in the dark room. The childish blue eyes looked as if they were glowing in the dark room. It was the next morning before the body was found, and yet again the police were informed of the situation and showed up several hours later. The body was identified as Philip. Todd was shocked by the information. The maintenance man that the family had spoken to about the incident that had occurred only 1 week prior was now dead. I don't understand why these things keep happening to us, said Todd. This is just a turn of unfortunate events and nothing more, said Mary. Death is shocking, but even more so when you know the person. Approximately 154,600 people die every day, but those lives seem meaningless to those who didn't even know them. Darkness is all that is around him. He is sane, but has no one to call his own. There is a light off in the distance, but all things come with a price. His sanity his sanity is all what he has left to pay for the light. But he knew that would plunge him into the madness. Sound is now seen by him, and words now felt by him. This is what madness feels like. It is the reality that next page, that you don't see or feel. But this is very much so real. Let us know his side of the story, his side of madness. It was the morning of my 10th birthday. and I wanted to see if mother or father had bought an ice cream cake for my birthday. I gotta go let my cat out. Quick pause. BRB. Dang it, I accidentally ended the video, so we'll continue. Uh, I'll just start the paragraph over. It was the morning of my 10th birthday, and I wanted to see if mother or father had bought an ice cream cake for my birthday. I walked out of my room and began to travel toward the kitchen. My friend David had pointed out that the eyes on the wall were bleeding. It was odd, for I had never seen the eyes before that day. I had a bit of a scare when I walked into the kitchen, for what I saw in there was a beast with scales. My housemaid. Where is she, beast? I demanded. The beast turned to me with a mocking look into his eyes. It tried to communicate with me as if it knew me from somewhere. There was no time for this idle chit-chat, for I had more important matters to deal with. I pushed the beast into the walk-in freezer and sealed it by placing the brass padlock into the hasp of the door. I had returned several hours later, only to see my housemaid in the walk-in freezer. She was frozen to death, but the lock was still where I had left it. Thoughts raced through my mind, but I could come up with nothing on how this had happened. Hide the lock until the killer was found. That was the only idea that I could think of, but I had to make sure it was well hidden so that no one would ever find it in my possession. I hid it in my toy box that was inside my closet. It begged me for water, but it was made of fire. David told me that I should create fire to keep it alive. I couldn't bring myself to give it water, so I went to the janitor's closet to find a screwdriver. The only thing that I could think of was to loosen the gas line to the stove and then turn it on. That would keep the blazing entity alive and unharmed. Gas leaked into the room until it was finally caught. The blaze had engulfed the creature, but it left behind the charred corpse of my father's friend who had been in the living room. I stood there thinking to myself for a moment. I had come to the conclusion that I needed to hide the screwdriver. I started to head toward the garden when David told me to hide it with the padlock in my room. It was a good idea. It was a good idea. One sec, I just lost my spot. It was a good idea, but if anyone found the item, one of the items, they would find both. There was no time for mistakes. You now know how this boy's life has been changed by the madness. This is his story, and it only gets better from here. Worlds shift and blend in the small boy's head, and all what he sees is true, and one reality or another. The only difference is what reality you are in. In a moment, we shall take a look at her past, and in the reason she is still here, look at it through the world's eyes. She screamed when the point of the blade pierced her tender flesh, but she was alone with him. There was a flash and then nothing but the silence. It is over, she thought to herself. We have probably about 3 more pages to go. Her past is a dark place, but she must return to reassure herself that she is very much alive, that she is very much so still alive, very much so still alive. She had been put through a lot, and you could say that she is the way you see her today. She looked at her arms and began to cry. Her tears flowed from her face as blood, for all the girl could do is remember the pain that was forced upon her those many years ago. I don't know if that makes sense. I don't know if that's edited good. That was forced upon her those many years ago. Anyways, we'll keep going. She stepped toward the man with death in her eyes. The same blade that had been used on her now was at the man's throat, and all he could do was sit there and wait for the inevitable to happen. He was trying to speak through the gurgling of the blood. She smiled when she looked at what she had done. The blue color of her eyes brightened a shade or two. Her eyes looked that of a child's. Ooh, that felt weird. Ow. That of a child's. It wasn't her fault. Look at it from her point of view. Hold on, text message. Sorry, I'll pause the video. Okay, sorry about that. That of a child. It wasn't her fault. Look at it from her point of view. I mean, she couldn't just stand there and do nothing after the things, and he put her through. He beat her every day that he saw her, and she wasn't strong enough to do anything about it. Her life has had its difficult times, but the hard part of it is over now. She can only get stronger from this point. She stood there in the silence of the room, only to wonder what to do next. It wasn't long before the silence had completely engulfed her. Completely engulfed her. It wasn't long before the silence had completely. Oh my god. Thought out. I am failing. It wasn't long after the silence had completely engulfed her. Thought after thought went through her head, but nothing seemed right to her. She was waiting for that one idea that would put her where she is today, forever consumed by madness. We still got a little bit of story left. Madness comes to those that need it. That that need it. Madness comes to those that need it, or those that it seems as worthy. Madness chose her, and she accepted it like it was one of her friends. There was no struggle, for the madness was one with her, as she was one with the madness. Her life was the madness, and she knew that one day it would like it would find a new host for its twisted desires. Life would be lonely without the madness's love in her life. But she would think about her. But she would think about that at a later date. Marcy, why have you helped me? Lucius asked. I know what you are going through. It isn't easy to deal with all the death and the madness that brings with it. So I thought I should help you, Marcy said. Well, I just wanted to thank you for all that what you have done for me. It is no problem for me, but how is David handling all of this? David isn't happy with me right now. I haven't made a mess in the house for a while now. Thank you so much. It really isn't a problem, Lucius. I just need you to remember that you should try to ignore David as much as possible. And it will then begin to fade away and your life will return to normal. I understand, but will mother and father ever find out what I did to those people? Next page. No, they will not be informed of your situation. Okay, thank you again, Marcy. I promise that I won't forget this. The problems for this pair are far from over, but we'll just have to sit back and watch what happens to them. Their lives are in danger as long as the madness is with that boy. The relationship that the madness has with the human is quite futile. If the human doesn't bond with the madness, it should be as if you were yourself, but with the embrace of the insanity. You should never have to fight for control of yourself. Improper relationships with the madness can leave you with constant pain and a feeling of constant struggle to keep hold of yourself. That is why you wait for the madness to show itself in your life and force it into you. Marcy was hired into the family's small circle of employees. Her job was to protect the boy at all costs. She was to stay by his side at all times and make sure he was safe. There was no purpose for her there. It was like having her very own slave of sorts. Comfort was one thing she brought to the boy without even trying. I awoke from my sleep screaming in agony. Pain was shooting through my body, but only one thing around me was the cool night air. I was soaked, and I felt oddly exhausted for no reason. The hard contact with the blood-chilling water had made me panic. It was freezing, and all around me, but I couldn't move. She was fighting for me, pulling me to the surface. Once I was above the water, I started to cough up all the liquid in my lungs. The pain was so unimaginable, and all I could do was just lay there and cough. Marcy carried me back to my room, and she gave me a set of dry clothing. I sat there thinking how I could have gotten out there. David turned to me and smiled, and at that moment I was terrified. It was only a matter of time before the madness would try and find a way to escape uncooperative hosts. To free yourself of the madness is to complete an unspoken contract with it, or you could kill yourself. Kind of dark. The madness is really a simple creature. All it wants is death in one way or another. Simple wishes for something that is so complex or really harder than it sounds. There was blood everywhere, but it couldn't be helped. The corpse was in pieces, and the wood chipper sat slick with the blood. There was a limited amount of people that it could have been, but the police could not identify the body. This was definitely not an accident. Mary had the decision to move out of the manor house until the deaths had stopped. Todd, next page. Todd had refused to leave his home and would spend most of his time at the office away. The pieces were removed from the property shortly after the police showed up. Blood began to coagulate into a small, gelatinous puddle in the yard. Lucius sat in his room, rocking back and forth in the fetal position. On his bed, his expression emitted the embodiment of gloom. He had fallen back into the power of madness. She tried to help him all that she could, but he could not fight the temptation that the madness placed in his mind. The boy couldn't resist the power of the madness forever. No one could resist the power of madness. The mental resistance of the boy thus far was quite impressive in the times before madness was needed. There was no peace on a massive level. That all ended when one man decided to break free from the others and commit the crime that we know as murder. I sat there rocking back and forth, thinking about what I'd done. Thinking about what I have done. There was no excuse for this. I just pushed her over the edge, and she didn't even think that I could have done it. She trusted me, and I killed her. I just pushed her into the chipper. To see that image again and again is horrifying. It repeats over and over, and there's just no end to it. She had tried so hard to help me, and David told me she was lying to me. I just couldn't stop thinking about the possibility that she was lying to me. And I think that is why I did it. Her eyes were so pure and innocent, and I just put an end to them. It was so easy, but that isn't how I wanted it to happen. I tossed my pocket watch into the wood chipper and asked her if she would retrieve it for me. She would have to have seen me toss it in there, but she said yes, young master. And she climbed up the ladder on the side. When she got to the top and tossed my watch out, I flipped the switch. I pushed her in. What an odd turn of it. What an odd turn of events. Okay, well, guys, that was his story. Next episode, we will read my story. Once again, I read his story to give him recognition that this book wouldn't be possible without his story to help me get enough words to put it into book format. So I wanted to point out that what he did for me. His story was really dark. If you didn't understand it, there is a lot of time jumps in the story. Let's see if I can try and show you. So if I'm talking about one thing and then I'm talking about another thing, it's because he has time jumps. Like, I don't know if I can show you, but these lines right here, you probably read a book and seen time jumps. He has time jumps on almost every single page, and he jumps to different parts of this kid's story. And I wasn't the full story. I do want to read the ending because that is pretty good. So this is actually a pretty long video, which nothing wrong with that. But next episode we will get into my book. See you guys later. Okay, guys, what is going on? Last episode we read my friend Alex's story because I wanted to give him recognition that he also has a story in this book too, why everything you know about Jameson is a lie. But now we're getting into the good stuff. We're getting into the story of Jameson. The dedication goes out to my family, Chance, Justin, and Keenan. You guys are my family. That was the dedication I came up with. The table of contents, starting on page 9, why everything you know about Jameson is a lie, and it goes for 60 pages. Acknowledgements, I would like to thank me, myself, and I. Then the introduction to the story says, no complaints, just get ready, I'm being dead serious. That is what it says. Turn the page again. Now, the joke is that it runs for 60, it goes for 60 pages, and we'll probably make like 3 or 4 videos out of this. We'll probably read like 5 pages at a time. And chapter 1, it's all one chapter. Chapter 1 is Jameson. Why everything you know about Jameson is a lie. Jameson used to wake up in the morning with a smile on his face. Jameson no longer went to school. Those dreams faded away before the 11th grade ended. Jameson had simply failed, so he tried to help his mother as much as he could, and he never talked back to her. He got dressed like he usually did and walked out into the living room. His mom made the usual oatmeal that was outdated. Money was hard, so no one complained about food. It was the fear that you didn't know when the next time you would see food on the table. So, without asking any questions, he ate it all. Just like every other day, she picked up the bowls and put them in the sink. A bill laid flat on the table. It scared Jameson to even look at that bill. After breakfast, it was time for Jameson to leave to what he calls his job. There was one thing he didn't tell his mom, but after a while, his mom finally noticed that he leaves every day at the same time. His sometimes he gets home. Sometimes Jameson got home with wads of cash. Other times he gets home. I just failed completely with that paragraph. Sometimes Jameson would get home with blood on his hand. Other times he'd get home with wads of cash. His mom didn't complain about the money because they both needed it. Next page. Jameson got up from the table, got his shoes on, and simply left. When he walked out the door, he always goes to the left. The thing about the direction was you'd be walking into danger. Jameson knew the risks of walking down the road to the left, but he was going to a place that used to be what he called the local park. But families disappeared from their homes because of financial issues. It didn't take very long for the place to become abandoned. Jameson had arrived at the park in no more than 15 minutes. This was the place where Jameson used to come with his mom when he was younger. It was a memory he would never let go because it was the last time she would do things with him. Plus, this park was close. It was in the area of his real jobs. He called them missions, other called them favors. The real word for the job was basically was Jameson was a hitman. Oh my god, I did. Sorry to stop reading, but I did the biggest typo of my life. Oh, this is gonna piss me off. Oh, I don't know if you can see this, but it says Hetman. Hetman. It says Hetman, not Hitman. It says H-E-T. Oh my god. But okay. But he didn't like to use that word. It was simple. They reached out to Jameson when someone needed to go or wouldn't pay up. He had made a name for himself. But then again, the money still wasn't good enough. So he needed to take a pay raise. Money was going to double fast. His phone was not new. Above all, nothing he owned was new. Jameson felt his stomach drop as the vibration of his phone went off in his pocket. To put it briefly, someone was calling to get rid of a problem. So without hesitation, he answered. The man on the phone had a chilling voice, and every word he spoke was quiet and soft. Hello, Jameson, the man said. Jameson replied, where and why do they need to go? First of all, let me introduce myself. My name is Tyler, the man replied. Yes, I know who you are, Jameson said. Well, anyways, I need a man dead. He lives over by the river and in the old store, Tyler said. Okay, good thing that's not too far. What's his name? Jameson said. Chance. After he said that, Jameson heard the phone click. Hung up. What bugged Jameson was that no one ever said. What bugged Jameson was that no one ever really talked. They just told him the details, no questions asked. They only gave him where and the occasional why someone needed to go. Jameson left the park and headed east towards the old store. 10 minutes later, he arrived at the store. The place that had been run down and little activity, he knew the real entrance was around back. Oh my god, another typo. Oh, I don't even understand that. Someone must have messed with my computer or something. I'm not that dumb. There's a one after he. You can kind of see it. It's that right there. It's a one. There is a one in my book. As he walked. Okay, sorry. As I keep getting distracted. As he walked around the side, it's hard not to notice the scenery. Only a handful of cars were ever on this road, and they went faster than usual to get out faster. Around back, Jameson found nothing except a door that led inside. He knew he had to go in. He walked up to the door and knocked 3 times. He heard someone yell, "Come in." As he walked inside, he saw a man with a name tag that read Keenan. "I heard a lot about you, Jameson. Your name has traveled across the area," Keenan said. Okay, guys, you're probably wondering how this Keenan character already knew who Jameson was. This is not the beginning of a story. It's picking up a day in Jameson's life. Jameson is a well-known person in the area, and people know what he looks like. I probably should have put that in the book. I realize that now, but people know who he is and know what he looks like. Okay, let's pick it back up. Really, it makes me happy. Another typo, I guess. Anyways, another typo. That makes me happy, I guess. Anyways, I'm looking for a man named Chance, Jameson replied. Chance? My brother? Why are you looking for him? Keenan stuttered out. Next page. Someone says you need to go. My God, typo. Someone says he needs to go, and you don't argue what the customer wants, James said softly. God, watch down on my brother, but I'm sorry to say he is not here, Keenan whispered. A voice traveled down the stairs and put a worried look on Keenan. Jameson made out the phrase, "My novel is almost complete." Jameson didn't notice, but a grin rose widely across his face. Chance! Run! That was probably really bad and sketchy. Keenan yelled. You shut your mouth, Jameson said loudly. Jameson started the trip up the stairs, a running river of thoughts going through his mind. Yet the only one that stuck out the most was turn around. The fuck did I just read? That paragraph does not make sense. He stood in front of the door for exactly 10 seconds, then he opened it slowly. But Chance did not bother to check who it was. Hello, Chance, Jameson started. Who are you? Chance said quietly. Jameson noticed he was keeping one eye on the screen. On the screen was an animated show he really seemed attached to. I am Jameson, Jameson replied. Jameson? Chance stuttered. Sorry, Jameson? Chance stuttered. I sense you know who I am, Jameson replied. There is not a period after that. Typo. Sorry. Why me? What did I do wrong? Chance replied. When someone calls and says they want me to get rid of someone, I never ask questions, Jameson said. Chance didn't even reply, because he knew there'd be no point in arguing. Jameson locked eyes with him. Neither one of them didn't move for about 3 minutes. Some intense eye staring contest. Jameson stopped writing and also turned the TV off. Um, let's talk about this, please. It doesn't need to be like this, Chance shouted. The door slammed open. Keenan had death in his eyes. Leave. Everything is already messed up. We just found that our mom and dad died last week. We are barely surviving on our own things aren't good, and I'm not going to let you terrorize my brother, Keenan yelled. I put little or no time into editing this book because I got lazy. You can probably tell. I am truly sorry if I wish it could be different, but this is what needs to happen. You need to die. I need the money, Jameson replied. Jameson Jameson only pulled out his gun when he needed to. He raised it towards Chance, yet he couldn't pull the trigger. Maybe it was the fact that Jameson felt broken himself. Yet the only thing that proved to be breaking was silence. I will make you a deal. If you stay low for a couple of weeks, I will leave right now, Jameson said. Thank you. I appreciate it. That means a lot, Chance replied. Do you know anyone by the name of Tyler? Jameson asked. Yes, I do. I borrowed money from him a while back, but I couldn't pay him, so he got angry, Chance said sadly. Stay away from him, Jameson said. Another typo. Jameson turned around before Chance had time to say thank you a million times. Jameson wasn't the type of person that had manners, yet he regretted it every time he should have used them. Before Jameson knew it, it was outside. It was cold, and always the place was silent. He needed to head home because it was getting late. He ran home so he wouldn't run into trouble with the wrong people. He jogged. Wow. I'm just going to leave out that sentence because it doesn't need to be there. The sun was setting. It was always a good idea to be home before sunset in the Bronx. Before he knew it, he was at his walkway to his house. Jameson's house was old. It was not a good looking house, but it worked for shelter. Jameson walked up the pathway and opened the door. His mom was crying. He knew the right thing to typo says right thing to day was comfort her. Right thing to say was comfort her. What the fuck did I write that for? Yeah, he went straight to his room. After every day was over, Jameson jumped straight into bed. Before he knew it, he was asleep. I'm gonna finish this page and then that'll be it for this video. Jameson woke up in the middle of the night to the sound of a window breaking. Jameson grabbed the nearest item, which was a bat, and ran out into the living room. There, he found himself face to face with a tall man in a ski mask. Yet no one moved for a minute. Yet he should have tackled him. The man took off towards the kitchen, and Jameson ran towards him. But the man proved to be faster. Jameson couldn't catch him, so he turned around and ran back. That sentence doesn't make sense. The man took off towards the kitchen, and Jameson ran towards him, but the man proved to be faster, so Jameson gave up and turned around. His mother was next to the window crying. Go to sleep, Mom, Jameson said. They both turned around and went back towards their beds, forgetting the problems that had just occurred. They both wanted to forget that day, and that's exactly what they did. They slept. The next morning finally came. I don't know, but that is underlined. The next morning finally came to Jameson, but he woke up to a phone call. The phone number was one he recognized before. Jameson answered. Jameson, another typo. Jameson, if I want someone dead, please actually do it. Please actually do it. And I won't have to send and I won't have to send people to your house anymore, Tyler said fiercely. Sorry guys if I keep pausing. I'm not the best of writer. Well, I'm a decent writer, I just don't take time to edit it. So when I pause, it's me trying to read what I wrote. Tyler said fiercely. I'm so sorry they didn't deserve to die. They only had each other, Jameson said. All Jameson heard was laughing for a straight minute. They killed their parents, and the younger one didn't pay back his debt, Tyler said. What? They said their parents were killed not too long ago, and only had each other, Jameson replied. They played you fool. I am sorry, but you don't get paid. I have a mission for you, but you'll have to wait till this afternoon, Tyler replied. Okay, guys, that will be it for this video. That was the start of the book. That was the first couple of pages. Basically, if you were confused, he didn't kill a target. He didn't, he didn't kill the targets assigned to him. So, stay tuned for part 3 in the future. Gotta make sure my hair is perfect. Freaking perfect. Okay, guys, welcome back. I am Dustin, and we are bringing episode 3 of Book Talk. We are continuing on with the story of Jameson. We're going to read a little bit more. So, bam. I believe we left off on page 15. Page. Okay, here we go. I'll start at the top of the page. They played you, fool. I'm sorry, but you don't get paid. I have a mission for you, but you'll have to wait till this afternoon, Tyler replied. Jameson threw the phone across the room. He had it out toward the living room. His mom already cleaned up the mess from last night. And at the table was the usual outdated oatmeal. In other words, breakfast was ready. 5 minutes went by before Jameson was finished. He honestly, for once, wanted to stay home with his mother. Time flew by, and before he knew it, noon had arrived. He would be getting a phone call shortly. Jameson was still furious. He always needs the money. Jameson went back to his bedroom to find his phone. And as he walked in, the phone rang. Jameson answered it. The next job I have for you, it's kind of the same as the last time. There's a kid who lives across town by the name of Gavin. You listen to everything he has to say. He lives in an apartment complex across town. You should know which one. And I am sure you were. I'm sure. Oh, what the fuck did I write? You should know which one. The one I used to live in when I was younger? Jameson replied. Yes, Tyler said. That one. Jameson heard the phone click. Now all Jameson had to do was meet a dude named Gavin. Nothing seemed wrong with any of this. But that was part of the job title, not knowing what you're going to get yourself into. So, like usual, he changed into his working clothes, a worn out t-shirt and blue jeans and his kicks. He said goodbye to his mom, and he walked out the door. He started out the door and walked to the left, like he usually does. The old apartment complex Tyler was talking about wasn't very far. was a little past the park, a short walk. About a half hour later, he had arrived. The apartments were run down and had no life of succeeding. Gavin would be hard to find. A lot of people stayed here. The owner didn't really charge rent anymore. Too many people weren't doing well. They could come here and people would help each other out. They would survive and die together. To try and find Gavin, Jameson went toward the front office building, the building where people would come to check out rooms. Jameson was on the sidewalk in front of the complex. A few simple strides and he was at the front door. Sorry, my nose kind of stuffed. When he opened the door, the old bell still rang. No one was surprisingly at the front desk anymore. No one was at the front desk. It didn't surprise Jameson because no one was ever here. It had become a shelter for people, yet they all helped each other out. Jameson headed towards the back, behind the desk. A long hallway tunneled. I spelled that word wrong. Tunneled behind it, and Jameson knew he had to go down it. So he started down the hallway, and at the end he found a door to the left and a door to the right. Jameson opened the door to the right and found stairs going up to the next floor. One step at a time till he reached the top of the stairwell. And at the top, Jameson noticed so many more doors. So Jameson yelled, "Gavin! Gavin!" A few seconds went by before Jameson heard the man's voice. He would never forget that voice because Jameson wouldn't see that. Oops, sorry about that. He would never forget that voice because Jameson wouldn't see him that much afterwards. A tall, slim man turned the corner and walked right up to Jameson. "You must be the boy Tyler was talking about." "Right this way," Gavin said. He led Jameson into the third door on the left. Some things are meant to be forgotten, but that was hard when you see unforgettable things. The room was small, and the windows were covered by jet black curtains. In other words, the room was almost pitch black, except for a few lamps. This would be the last time the two would ever have an actual conversation. "Now, Jameson, Tyler is an old friend of mine," Gavin said. "You didn't finish your contract, and you made him upset." Gavin continued. Gavin reached towards the dresser next to him. Jameson was in trouble now, and he could tell what was about to happen was probably going to hurt. Gavin pulled out a pair of shiny brass knuckles, and before Jameson knew it, he was on the ground. The pain shot through his head. From the contact the brass knuckles had made with his eye, Gavin shouted, "Tyler is serious when he means finish the job." Punch after punch. They all landed on Jameson. Less than a minute, and his nose was bleeding. These were the risks Jameson took, not finishing contract, not finishing his contract. He was lying on the ground. The only thing flowing through his mind were regrets. Jameson did not see that coming. Then again, he couldn't see at all. Gavin was stronger than Jameson expected. Jameson doesn't like to be pushed around though, so he acted fast. Well, Gavin didn't see that one coming either, and Jameson grabbed a lamp and introduced it to the back of Gavin's head. All of this happened fast, and Jameson ran out the door. With his body aching, it didn't make escaping easy. Jameson was going to have a little talk with Tyler. First, he needed sleep and rest. This day needed to be over. Running hurt a lot. Jameson was telling himself repeatedly, forget about everything that just happened. Running down the stairs and outside, he wanted to see his mom. Jameson ran past everything, and at the same time, he was running away from his problems. He was running away from his broken family. While Jameson was running, he tripped on a rock. That made everything hurt again. He was running away from his job and his problems. He turned on his block and made the final sprint to his house, past all the houses with no one inside. They were empty, and Jameson's house was on the brink of being empty too. He turned toward his pathway and ran up the stairs. Jameson's mom was passed out on the couch. He limped to bed and fell asleep moments later. Morning came fast. His face was smashed in. He walked into the living room, and well, his mom had this reaction. Jameson, why? Just why? Mom, please don't freak out, Jameson said. They went on for a while, and he had to walk away from it in the end. The rest of the day, Jameson did nothing. He had to rest. His face hurt more than anything. There was nothing really fun to do at their house but read and sleep. Jameson may not be in school anymore, but he still loved to read, going on different adventures, and mostly not living his life for short periods of time. Jameson had a small collection, but the one thing that stuck out the most was they were his books. So, Jameson passed time by reading, and he liked to stay smart. He liked to stay as smart as he could. Dinner time came faster than he expected, so he washed his hands and went to the table. They were having TV dinners. They weren't the best quality, but it was food. They both ate in silence and didn't say anything to each other. The rest of the night, he stayed in his room. and laid on his bed trying to pass out. Well, that time finally came and he fell asleep. The nights were long and always dragged on. The nights were cold when you didn't have enough blankets. The nights especially dragged when your bed wasn't comfortable. Jameson never complained about what he had because times were hard. Wake up, Jameson. We're leaving in 30 minutes, his mom said. Okay, Mom. Jameson was now up and he replied to his mom. No later than a half hour it took Jameson to get his nicest clothes on. Their car was on the brink of falling apart like everything else, but they piled in and the car rattled and screeched. They were off. Mom, where are we going? Jameson asked. To the hospital. After his mom said that, they were both silent for the rest of the trip. Their hospital was an average 3-story building, but the doctors sometimes didn't even know what they were doing. Jameson's stomach dropped as they pulled into the parking lot. They found the nearest parking spot and they both got out. The front doors opened and they were in the waiting area. Jameson, go sit down, his mom said. He found the nearest spot and he watched his mom talk to a young girl at the front desk. He couldn't make out what they were saying, but from the looks of it, his mom had an appointment. His mom turned toward him and said, "Come on." He walked over slowly, but on the way there, he thought about how much he truly loved his mom. His mom was there for everything since day one. Jameson had done some bad things, but he would never hurt his mom. The back door opened, and a man with a white coat on said, "Right this way." They both followed him to the room to the left. The room to the left. And they all walked inside. Do you want him in here? It might be hard, the doctor said. He's a big boy. He can stay, his mother replied. Jameson sat there and didn't say a single word. The doctor was saying so much, and a single tear almost came to Jameson's face. Oh my god. I spoke Jameson like the alcohol right there. Jameson's face. The news was unbearable. It was horrible. It was a disaster. It felt like time had stopped and he was sitting there forever. The doctor was only doing his job. It was like time had stopped and he was sitting there forever. The doctor was only doing his job. But Jameson wished that he would have never said that. The doctor left the room to give them some privacy. Not even halfway through the day, and he was already wishing it would be over. He looked at his mom, gave a faint smile. The doctor came back in and said the expenses would be a number Jameson chose to forget. The doctor left, and that was that time for them to leave. And that was the time for them to leave. They were both silent. Neither one of them wanted to talk. Out of the hospital and into the car, they both loaded up, and they were off. Neither one of them talked, and that changed once they were inside their house. I'm sorry, son. Once I figure out how to get the money, it'll be fine, his mom said. Jameson didn't reply, but went straight to his room. He picked up his phone and made some calls. I need the biggest contract you got, Jameson said. Okay, this one is tough and it pays the most, the voice on the other side said. He hung up. He also skipped dinner that night. Jameson might be making enough money soon enough. He stayed in his room for the rest of the night, yet he felt bad because he should be visiting with his mom. Hours went by before he finally fell asleep that night because a lot had happened that day. That morning, Jameson's face and okay, sorry, it says that morning. Jameson's face in the morning no longer contained a smile. His mother had to make a trip to the hospital the previous day. She came home crying, for she was dying. He knew the South Bronx was no place for her, and he needed money fast. Jameson passed by the mirror in the hallway near the front door. His reflection showed a young teenager no older than 18 with used clothes on him. Every time he opened the front door, it was old, creaky, annoying. He walked outside. The sun was blinding. His neighborhood was not wealthy, but still not dead. He knew a person who could give him enough money for his mom's surgery a little ways downtown. It was from a man Jameson knew across town that he had met a few weeks back. He is no older than 34, but he is a shadowy figure. His house was across town and across the Bronx. Jameson walked fast, because that night the Bronx was a different story. Jameson passed by someone on the sidewalk. They had a disgusted look on their face. He said, "How is it going for you?" Jameson whispered softly, "Fine, Gavin." The walk was quiet, through empty neighborhoods that once filled families that had dreams of making it big in life. He continued his walk there. 20 minutes later, he was at the front doorstep. The house was worn down, missing windows, and the paint was decaying. Walking up to the house was not the scariest part. Knocking on the door was. He knocked on the door once, and it echoed through the house. The door opened slowly. There he was, Jameson's father. "Come in," his father continued. The large gray wall was littered with pictures of people. Some had an X through them, with an amount of money on the bottom. Jameson's father's name was Tyler, and he was no longer in Jameson's life. Tyler pointed at at a picture and simply stated 10,000 for her. Jameson studied the picture. It showed a scared girl who is now in trouble. "Sure, Tyler, I accept," Jameson solemnly responded. "You will need this." Tyler pulled out a heavy but maneuverable gun and handed it to his son. Jameson opened up the door and ran towards the sidewalk. "It's getting dark. I need to return home," he thought to himself. The walk home seemed faster because he ran faster than usual. His own house was no better than anyone else's. The door was unlocked. It made the usual creaking and annoying sound. When he opened it, he saw his mom on the couch, her eyes red from crying. Uh, he walked in slowly and closed the door behind him. Jameson pulled up the gun and pulled the trigger 3 times. The gun screeched each time the trigger was pulled. Broken body laid on the floor. The wind broke the swiftly quieting silence. One thought ran through Jameson's head, and it was that he was getting paid. The target was his mom. It took him 2 hours to bury the body. It took him 2 hours to bury his mom 6 feet under the already buried dead cat. Jameson cleaned himself up and sat down on the couch. He turned his favorite TV show on, and he watched. The program started. This next part is the TV show. Wilson's day started off with the usual bowl of cereal. The clock struck 6 a.m. School started at 7:35 a.m. Wilson wanted to get there early because Wilson's friends would be there. They arrived every day at the same time. Before Wilson knew it, he was at the front steps of the school. Sorry, just something felt really weird. We're gonna end the video there. I realize we've been going for like about 27 minutes. Okay, guys, we have been going for a while. That is it for this episode 3. Stay tuned for episode 4. Peace. Welcome back to a brand new motherfucking video. Today, you're probably wondering where our show Book Talk is. It's been almost a week since the last episode. Guys, I Aunt wanted to read the book, so she had to borrow it. So, I'm not able to make episodes with it because I currently don't have the book. What is going on, guys? Today is Dustin. We're making another video for this channel. And today we're making Book Talk episode 4. I just want to make a quick note that we had a special episode planned for episode 4. And I've been trying to work on it, Chance, if you're watching this. I really am working on it. I'm almost done with it. I just don't know why every time I get done putting them all together, the whole video just turns out black. It's dumb because it's a good episode. So I'm still trying to work out the issues, even though it's a week later. I'm still staying true to that promise of having you in an episode. But for now, I figure we need to move on with the show and make episode 4 of why everything you knew about Jameson is a lie. So I watched back the episode 3 to see where I left off because I remember. And here we go. Right about there. We walked to the normal hangout spot, and there they were. Sorry, quick drink. There they were, Wilson's friends. Gavin was always happy to see everyone, yet no one ever noticed how happy he was. Every day was a constant smile because he believed he had a purpose to fulfill in life. Gavin always had the same smile on his face. And always, no one would.
Wilson needed more. Wilson needed him more than he knew it. He was an amazing friend to Wilson. Then there was Jack. He only knew one emotion, and that was sadness. Every time Wilson saw Jack, he never had a smile on his face. Nothing ever made him happy, and he never said why. Wilson lived with it. They were good friends. Wilson needed him in his life. He needed all of his friends, but Gavin had a special place with them because of the smile he brought. Because of the smile he brought every day. No one noticed any of them. They liked to be left alone because people were just mean. Then there was Jacob. Good old Jacob. His life was made up. Hold on, 1 second. I may have just made the biggest mistake in this whole book. Sorry, I know I'm here to read the book, but I introduced Jack as a sad person. And I also introduced this Jacob character as a sad person. It's okay, I guess. It honestly kind of upsets me that I don't ever read over my work. I just like to get shit done. Then there's Jacob. His life was made blah blah blah. Shut the fuck up. Second to lastly, there was Daniel. Now the interesting thing about Daniel was the boy was surprised about everything. Every day the same old thing surprised him. It made Wilson wonder why. Wilson never questioned it. He lived with it, and they became great friends. Lastly, there was Annie. She was an interesting character. She showed anger to everything. It's what she did as a human. Jameson sighed as the commercial came on. It showed the police looking for a man named Tyler. Jameson chose to ignore it. Before he knew it, the show was back. So, those were Wilson's friends. He loved them. He felt incomplete without them. They all looked up in unison as the bell rang for first period. Well, see you guys later, I guess, Wilson said. The walk was like usual, short and boring. A nice 5-minute walk to the other side of the high school. As Wilson walked through the front door and found his seat, a sharp pain shot through his head that made him almost cry. It happened regularly, yet he didn't know what they were. Every time he was away from his friends, they happened. But when his friends were nearby, they never happened. First period went by fast, and before Wilson knew it, he was walking home. What a big time jump through 6 more periods. But this isn't the real story you should focus on. All you missed was classes and schoolwork, the boring stuff. Now Wilson's house was not the fanciest on the block. He walked up and opened the front door. After school, he just shut down. He only ate what he really needed. He only ate when he really needed it. Straight up to his bedroom and into the covers. He simply passed out. Wilson woke up to a 6 o'clock alarm. His daily chores took him about a half hour, and after that, and after that he had a half an hour before he would arrive at school exactly at 7. So he sat down on his bed and waited. The clock ticked slowly, minute by minute, and it was 6:45. He started the 15-minute walk to school, and again, he was at school. Something different. He didn't know what, but he felt it in the air. Usually there was a vibe in the air, a good vibe in the air, but the air was thin. Wilson spaced it off, but today was when he psyched few when he tripped to the zoo. Him and his friends, they would be leaving when the first bell rang. To fast forward time, Wilson was now on the bus with his friends. Now the thing about the zoo is that it isn't the safest place. Lots of accidents have been reported, but yet they were because of but yet they were lots of accidents have been reported, but they were there because they won it on with perfect attendance. The front gates were rusty and creaked every time they moved. A man named Thomas came from out the shadows. "Welcome to the zoo," Thomas said. Wilson spaced off everything he said, but he didn't know what was coming. Now comes the fun. They all walked together in unison. No one noticed that Annie was not with the group. Reading this makes me realize that this whole book is just cringe worthy. Let's get back to the story about Jameson. The I know I probably shouldn't skip that story, but yeah, okay, let's get back to the story of Jameson. I want you guys to be knowing about Jameson because this episode isn't going to be that long. Basically, the girl Annie ends up dying in the zoo, and everyone's so sad about it. And I pretty much fucked up the whole story. And the next day, all his friends have no idea who Annie is. And I never actually did finish that story. That is actually a full story that gets good, but that full story isn't here. This was Jameson's favorite show. He needed to leave. "Back to my dad's house," he whispered, walking out the front door. Jameson was no longer the young kid on the block. He was rich and in charge. Well, soon to be rich. Killing his mom was not an easy task, and it hurt him. As messed up as this sounds, part of him felt happy. His mom was dying, and Jameson killed her. That's like fucked up. I don't know why I ever wrote that. Jameson's job always came first, but he used to make an exception for family. No more than a half hour later, and he was there. Jameson's father was waiting in the living room. "Welcome back, and did you finish your job?" his father said. "Yes, I learned my lesson, but it was a hard thing to do," Jameson replied. Jameson walked up to the wall and put an X to his mom's picture. After Jameson did that, he handed back the gun to his father. Jameson took the conversation straight to the point, the money. Jameson said, "I am a man of my word, but" Jameson hated butts, not actual butts, Butts. But the response people used when they promise you to do something, they say, well, you can, but there was never a simple answer. There was always more. There was always a catch. Jameson, I'm a man of my words, but there is a problem, his father continued. I may be your father, but I have to look out for myself too, Tyler said. I make choices that will benefit everyone, and well, I'm sorry, Tyler continued. Jameson had just killed his mom and didn't even know why. The money, it was a lot of money, and he had the feeling he wasn't going to be getting paid. The one person that loved him the most was gone and should never come back. Jameson Jameson didn't know the exact story between his mom and his father, but he knew it didn't end on good terms. They had one they had once all been a family a long time ago, when Jameson was younger and still in school. His father was evil. He was a devil. You said if I took her out, I would get paid, Jameson said angrily. Well, some people lie, and some people tell the truth, his father replied. I needed her dead. You'll understand when you're older, Taylor said. I have nowhere to live now, and my mom is dead. Jameson shouted. You can live here. I have a spare bedroom down the hall, Tyler said. I have no other options. I have to move here. Those gunshots were loud. Anyone on the block could hear it, Jameson said. Forget your stuff. We can buy you some new stuff. The cops are probably at the place as we speak, Tyler said. Jameson had to choose the streets or this place. And on top of that, he didn't have any money. Jameson didn't understand why he wouldn't be getting paid and why he actually did kill his mom. Okay, can I see this room? Right this way, boy. And it's the first door on the left. He walked to the door on the left and opened it slowly. Jameson was surprised because the room was actually not that bad. There was a bed, bigger than his old one. It might not be that bad, Jameson thought. Listen, son, Tyler said. The money's in a safe place. I swear, and you aren't ready for that kind of money. We are talking about $10,000. And that is a lot of money for a young boy. What no one realized is that Jameson isn't a young boy. He's, well, that's what he thought. Jameson hated it when people called him a young boy. I understand that's not easy, but there's more to her than you know. The only time will tell. Now get some sleep. Jameson didn't reply, but went straight into his new room and landed straight on the bed. He fell asleep sooner than he expected. The bed was more comfortable, and the room was dark. The night was long, and every minute dragged on. Tick, tick. The clock hit 7 a.m. Jameson woke up with his eyes squinted because of the sun shining through the sky. With the sun shining through, Jameson could see his environment a lot better. The room was surprisingly nice, like Jameson said the day before, and it really honestly was a lot better than his old bedroom. There was a bed in the far corner, and a desk in the other corner. Jameson walked across the room and opened the closet. Clothes were still in there. That made Jameson wonder who was here before him. Who else did Tyler trick, potentially ruin their lives? That would remain a mystery to Jameson, and he didn't want to know the answer. For now, he had to worry about this, his life, and survive. He walked out of the room and found his father in the kitchen. The food smelled good, and that made Jameson think he hasn't woke up to a cooked meal in a long time. Hey, son, you hungry? Tyler said. Without answering, he sat down, and he started eating the food on the table. Jameson was surprised the food was good. Things were calm. She was right. She was sick, right? Jameson decided to start off with the conversation. Son, we're all sick of something, Tyler responded. Jameson didn't respond because he figured it'd be better off. He finished his food and put the dishes in the sink. Okay, let's talk about work and how the contracts will be going, Jameson asked curiously. I'll give you a couple days off to recover, and we'll get you some new things, Tyler responded. We're going to end it there for today, because I still got other videos to make, and I'm still working on that special episode. That'll be all for right now. Thank you guys.
Hey guys, what is going on? Today, I got some big news. As you can see in my other video, I said I wrote a book. Well, I'm only 18 years old. That seems highly illogical. Whatever. But today, guys, okay, first, let's do a little bit of a history lesson. You all know, or probably have heard if you've been on this channel for a while, of the name Jameson. Jameson was going to be the main character in a movie we were going to film. Well, the only reason why we weren't able to film that movie is because I went somewhere else during winter break. But Jameson wasn't made up for the movie. It was a character I came up from a story I was writing, and that story was going to be based off, or the movie was going to be based off the story. Well, guys, the time is here. My book is done. Book. My book. That says Dustin Moore. Why everything you know about Jameson is a lie. It is a book I wrote. Badass is what it is. Hold on. There it is. My camera app closed for some reason. And I figured I want you guys to know the story of Jameson. I'm really happy with how it turned out. And I figured I would. Man, that's kind of dark. That's what weird. I figured I would read the story to you because I want you guys to know who exactly Jameson is and why I like him so much. But story, I will tell you a little bit about the book. The book had to be 16,000 words. Well, my story ended at 14,000 words. So I had a friend give me a story that he wasn't going to be able to finish. And we've been good friends for a while, so I figured, you know, I'd give him some recognition, and we'll read his story first. It's called Into Madness. Short story by Alex Hunter. Good friend of mine. Here we go. His story is only like maybe 10 pages. So probably next video we'll get into the next episode we'll get into my story. Okay, guys, what is going on? Last episode.
Gotta make sure my hair is perfect. Freaking perfect. Okay, guys, welcome back. I am Dustin, and we are bringing episode 3 of Book Talk. We are continuing on with the story of Jameson. We're gonna read a little bit more. So, bam. I believe we left off on page 15. Okay, here we go. I'll start at the top of the page. They played you, fool. I'm sorry, but you don't get paid. I have a mission for you, but you'll have to wait. What is going on, guys? Today is Dustin. We're making another video for this channel. And today we are making Book Talk episode 4. I just want to make a quick note that we had a special episode planned for episode 4. And I've been trying to work on it, Chance, if you're watching this. I really am working on it. I'm almost done with it. I just don't know why every time I get done putting them all together, the whole video just turns